I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic engineer gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is James Corbett, publisher of thecorbettreport.com and editorial writer for the International Forecaster. He's speaking to us from Japan, where he has worked and lived since 2004. Welcome back to the show, James, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and thanks for having me back.
Is China still cracking down on cryptocurrencies?
As a matter of fact, yes, they are. I only read the headline today, so I can't give you the full story, but I did read about the Chinese central bank apparently attempting to crack down on Bitcoin miners, which is a phenomenon in China, specifically because, of course, Bitcoin mining, for those who don't know, takes a great degree of electricity, and Chinese electricity rates are such that it makes it a nice place for people to park their Bitcoin mining operations, their processors that are required for mining Bitcoin. So it looks like the Chinese central bank has apparently, at least again according to these reports that I'm seeing, hosted closed-door meetings on the electricity usage of Bitcoin miners. And closed-door meetings with official Chinese state agencies generally means they are getting an ultimatum of some sort. And some sort of regulation is going to be taking place as a result of this. Either the Chinese government is going to be asking for their cut, or they are going to be laying out rules about what can and cannot be done. Probably a combination of both.
Are they also very concerned about people still trying to get by the monetary restrictions they have and how much they can take out every year?
Well, I think that has to be the primary concern of the Chinese government when it comes to Bitcoin. I think every central bank has its own concerns when it comes to cryptocurrencies and their ability to undermine national fiat currencies, but specifically in China with the Chinese Communist Party and its very precarious situation trying to internationalize the yuan at the same time as trying to keep a lid on capital outflows. It is extremely difficult to balance all of that, especially when there is a disruptive new technology that comes along, like cryptocurrency, that enables people to instantaneously and effortlessly send currency of some sort out of the country. So that is, I think, the primary concern when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party and why they are so motivated to be cracking down on Bitcoin at this point.
But, of course, I guess publicly it's a lot better for them to say, it's not about the money. We just want to make sure you don't have a blackout because they're using so much power.
That or even the environment. There's been a whole slew of articles in the last couple of months, really, since Bitcoin started going parabolic. Is Bitcoin bad for the environment or something along those lines? Just look up that catchphrase and it will be all over the place as more and more people worry about electricity usage. And I think there's some degree of ludicrousness even to the nature of these articles themselves. I saw a particularly funny graph that was presented in all seriousness. It was a graph of future electricity usage by Bitcoin miners, and it was attempting to show predictions, trends for how much of global electricity supply was going to be used by Bitcoin mining. And it starts off in the current 2017-2018 era at a very paltry, quarter of a percentage point or whatever it is, and then by 2020, it's 95% of all electricity in the world is apparently going to be going to Bitcoin mining, according to these experts. So I think this is one of the new ways that they're going to try to demonize cryptocurrency. Oh, it's bad for the environment. It's going to cost countries to try to power the miners. So I think certainly the Chinese government will pick up on that and use that to its advantage too.
Of course, you can now get futures in Bitcoin on the Chicago Exchange.
Yes, that started late in 2017, and obviously I think a lot of people are seeing that was part of what this price squeeze was about, a pump and potentially a bit of dump there at the end of the year, which saw the rates skyrocketing and then before pairing off a little bit and consolidating. But now apparently prices are going back up on the reports, or at least the rumor that who was it? Peter Thiel has apparently taken a huge position in Bitcoin, and so this has apparently excited investors again. Again, I think the entire point of Bitcoin, if people are looking at it as a monetary investment in that form, are missing the entire point of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency generally really is and what it means. But it's certainly an interesting and wild ride, especially for people who are just dipping their toes in this and are not used to the incredible volatility of these markets, where you'll see 50% swings in prices in a single day, and this is almost par for the course when it comes to these cryptocurrencies. And I think a lot of investors don't quite have a handle on that yet.
Some people have said, or I've been told by a few analysts, that so many people are getting into Bitcoin, but they don't understand the process of how to get out of it if they have to, and how long that can take.
Absolutely right. I think most people don't really understand. Again, this is the easiest way for central banks to try to control Bitcoin is to control the points at which people enter or exit the market. And so they obviously, the exchanges that exist now are heavily regulated and will only be more so in the future. And generally, they'll have to not only comply with all the Know Your Customer legislation internationally and usually in the U.S. jurisdiction, but also there are limits to how much someone can extract of fiat currency from their crypto accounts in any given transaction. So there's all sorts of those types of limitations being put on. And again, I think this is why most people are missing the point of cryptocurrency, which presumably would be to create a cryptocurrency economy in which people are actually transacting in cryptocurrency rather than converting into the fiat money in order to purchase goods and services. Again, if people are just looking at this as an investment, I think they're going to miss the point, and they're not going to actually see the utility of this.
What merchant is going to accept Bitcoin not knowing what that Bitcoin's going to be worth when they go to cash it in?
It's a very good point. The volatility makes it extremely difficult for a lot of businesses to take it. And in fact, this is one of the things contributing to some volatility that's happening in the Bitcoin economy at the moment. As people may or may not know, it's a lengthy discussion, but Bitcoin has forked into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, which are two separate but related cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin Cash claims to be the peer-to-peer cashless idea that was part of the original white paper of Bitcoin, whereas Bitcoin itself is now becoming a sort of store of value, where it seems that the developers are actually trying to steer it in a direction where they don't want people to use it as a currency. They want people to simply hold it like digital gold. So there's even differences in philosophy within the Bitcoin community that's now actually splitting the currency. So it's becoming more and more difficult for people to understand, even as they're just starting to, learn of the existence of Bitcoin.
Has South Korea followed through with their threat to put a capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin?
That's an excellent question, and I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I have heard that there are new Bitcoin trading rules in South Korea, but I haven't looked into it myself, so I can't actually answer you.
Okay, we'll explore that next time.
We certainly will.
We'll have more with James Corbett right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario, with grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program to test numerous targets located by recent groundwork is planned for early 2018. Please visit our website at rmroyalty.com.
Bannon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bannon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at bannonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with James Corbett. James, how did the Japanese stock market start off the new year?
Well, stocks are generally across the board in Asia going up, and I think it's certainly interesting to see things happening over here. And part of this is a regional phenomenon. In fact, the Nikkei Asian Review is reporting that Asia is expected to be leading global wage growth in 2018, with India, Vietnam, and China leading the pack, and Thailand leading the pack in terms of expected wage growth. And Japan is lagging a bit behind its regional competitors, but still buoyed up as part of that. And another interesting statistic that just came out is apparently Japan's foreign direct investment holdings have doubled in the past 5 years. And to put some numbers on that, apparently since 2012, the amount of foreign direct investment has gone up 90% by Japanese companies, with 40% of that in the last 12 months alone. So it shows that Japanese companies are consolidating their positions at home and starting to invest abroad, looking for markets outside the country. This is seen as part of a recovery that Japan is going through right now, and some are even predicting that this may be the year in which the Japanese economy actually exits deflation, which would be something of a minor miracle, I guess, as obviously people probably know. Japan has been stalled in the quagmire of this deflationary spiral for the last couple of decades, as the Japanese economy never truly recovered from the popping of the late 80s, early 90s bubble. So it seems that the economy is picking up, that wage growth is on the way up, that foreign direct investment is on the way up. So there are some things for the Japanese markets to be excited about this year.
Is any of this connected with the Bank of Japan being one of the biggest purchasers of Japanese major stocks?
Well, I think we have to understand that as an underlying part of everything that's going on in the Japanese economy. It's just a question of to what degree is that a part. And the other question is, if those are training wheels, as it were, for the Japanese ink bike, then can those training wheels be taken off? Can they stop using the central bank tools to try to fix or game the economy? And I think that's really the important question here, because it's not perhaps difficult for a large and powerful central bank to try to dictate or prop up the markets for a certain period of time. The question is, can they release those controls without things going haywire? And I think that might be one of the big questions for 2018.
We'll have more with James Corbett right after this.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're speaking with James Corbett. James, have you heard any word that China is about to surpass Japan as the world's biggest importer of natural gas?
I haven't heard that specifically, but I suppose it wouldn't be surprising. Obviously, China already surpassed the U.S. as the largest importer of oil a couple of years ago. So the largest importer of natural gas, one would presume, would not be far behind, especially as China continues to grow and its economy continues to modernize. And, of course, on the back of the 1.3 billion people or so that are living there now, one would expect that it would surpass the Japanese economy at some point. But still, that's no mean feat, because as people may or may not know, Japan is a huge importer of LNG. That's very much required for a island economy like this. So it is a significant event if that is in fact taking place. And one would expect that there would be global ramifications for this. And I think, again, this is part of the entire picture that's going on here, from the Asia leading the pack in terms of global wage growth, but also obviously becoming a more important outlet and export market for a number of different materials and resource suppliers, commodity suppliers. So I think this is part of the general shift to the Asia-Pacific region that we're seeing going on right now.
Any word of any more BC natural gas shipments to China or Japan?
I don't have the latest on that. Again, I would assume that would be taking place just generally because of the rise of the Asian markets, but I don't have any figures or numbers on that for you.
Any relief in Japan that North Korea and South Korea have reopened their hotline?
Yes, I think, again, this has to be at least tentatively seen as hopefully a step in the right direction, but as you may notice from the weasel words there, I don't think anyone is saying that this is the ultimate solution to this crisis, but it, at any rate, has to be a step in the right direction. And obviously, people in South Korea are, I think, the most worried about talk of war beyond the North Koreans themselves, because, of course, that would almost certainly mean the destruction of the Korean Peninsula as we know it if a serious war were to break out. So I don't think anyone there is motivated to actually continue stepping towards the brink. And Japan is not far behind in that worry because obviously it would be a nice sitting duck target for any North Korean forces given its proximity and the hefty bounty of American military that are stationed here in Japan. I think it has to be seen as a primary target. So I think people in the region generally are pleased that things may be heading in the right direction, although with the tweeter-in-chief there in the United States tweeting about nuclear buttons and what have you, it's by no means an issue that has gone away for the new year.
Well, it sounded almost like a dare from Trump. My nuclear button is bigger than yours and I have more nukes than you have.
It certainly did, didn't it? But I think if there's anything good about this, it's that I think by this point, people have been trained to understand that presidential tweets don't mean anything at all. That these are just hot air and just words, and we'll have to actually wait to see what actual official policy develops, if any coherent policy does develop. Because one of the most surprising things about 2017 is the fact that you had Rex Tillerson at State Department basically being left hung out and dry, as obviously there's a rift between himself and the president, and he clearly doesn't seem to represent the administration. But who is in charge and what is the actual policy? That really still doesn't seem to be clear at this point. So hopefully we'll get some sort of clarification on that in 2018, and hopefully that clarification will not take the form of a mushroom cloud.
Any reaction in Asia to Steve Bannon's book about the White House?
I haven't seen the Asian reaction to this specifically because I've been looking at some Western-oriented sites. But I would imagine, again, that this is probably not particularly surprising to people who are watching the campaign and its aftermath to hear that there is a deep rift and rancor and scorn. I think it seems that anyone who is in and involved with that administration seems to be leaving in such a manner at some point. So, again, I'm not sure this is particularly surprising to outsiders, but, again, somewhat worrying in that it does represent destabilization in the nuclear power that clearly is careening. I'm not sure out of control or in control or what exactly the situation is, but it certainly doesn't seem to be strategic. And I think this has to, again, cause concern for people who are in the position in the Asian region of trying to negotiate with this administration. Again, the big question mark is who do you negotiate with? Because clearly Tillerson isn't the person to be going to. So who is speaking for the president other than the president, and what's happening behind the scenes? It's only through glimpses like this that we get any indication of what's going on.
Have you heard about any chatter on Britain looking to join Pacific trade groups post-Brexit?
I have not actually heard about that. Do you have any info on that?
Well, I mean, I'm just going through the Asian financial news, and it looks like Britain is desperate to find new markets if Europe isn't one of them.
Right. Yes. Well, it certainly would make sense, wouldn't it? The only thing that I've seen is that apparently Britain is open to foreign investment, according to the UK Trade Minister, Liam Fox, but also that it's too soon to be seeking membership of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So perhaps I'm not sure what would be why they would not be interested in that, considering obviously the Asian markets are going to be more important, and especially in a post-Brexit Britain, one would expect that the UK would be very interested in seeking deals wherever they can get them, including in Asia. So I'm not sure why they would be holding up on that, but perhaps there is some pressure from Washington not to get involved. At any rate, it seems that they are at least inching towards the rhetoric that they would be open to more trade with China and places in Asia.
Any more fallout from Prime Minister Trudeau's visit to China, where he didn't seem to be all that successful after lecturing the Chinese on human rights and how to treat women?
Yes, well, again, I haven't seen the Chinese side of that equation, but I have certainly seen the way that the Canadian press has treated it, including Monique Scotti at Global News, talking about Trudeau's erratic behavior threatening trade relationships. So clearly, I think it wasn't a success. I think we can say that pretty clearly. Whether this is fundamentally disruptive to any Chinese-Canadian relations remains to be seen. I don't think that that's necessarily what's happening here, but at any rate, it doesn't seem that that type of conduct is going to be helpful towards the development of that relationship.
Is South Korea alienating Japan at a key time when you consider what's happening with North Korea over a dispute that goes way back to the Second World War? And that's the issue of the young women who were kidnapped by the Japanese and used as prostitutes.
Yes. Well, I guess it's a matter of perspective as to when and how and in what way that issues like this can or should be approached, and in what level of diplomatic bickering is too much, especially when you face a joint threat like the North Korean nuclear program. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's room for interpretation about that. But for people who don't know, this idea of the comfort women, as they have been called, and that severing of that rift between Seoul and Tokyo has been there for literally decades and decades, and has been an issue that there are real political issues here, but it's also used as a political football certainly for politicians in Seoul to score an easy touchdown with the public. They can just raise this issue again and raise anger at Tokyo. So it is used in that manner by politicians somewhat cynically. And one could imagine that if that is driving recent uptake in anger about the issue, then that clearly wouldn't be a very responsible behavior. But again, at the heart of this, there are real people with real grievances about the way that they were treated in the Second World War by the Japanese occupiers. So I think there's definitely there's reason for the rancor, but I think it's played a little bit as a political football game.
Is there any more effort by Japan to allow their military to go outside the country, especially with the threat from North Korea?
Yes, well, I think that is one of the overriding goals of the Abe administration, and especially now that he has his new mandate after having run the elections last year. I think clearly shifting Japan towards a more militaristic nation, at least with some sort of ability to actively work outside of the nation's boundaries, has been one of Abe's long-term goals. They've been working towards that. I think they're going to continue working towards that as the Liberal Democratic Party has an even stronger mandate now after the election. And I think that's just the general drift of relations here in the Asia Pacific. And there is a logic to it, and that's why I think the Japanese public is more supportive of that idea now than they have been in the past. It's only a question of whether there is enough support amongst the public to really allow that agenda to go forward, and if so, how quickly and how far.
James, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
My guest has been James Corbett, publisher of the CorbettReport.com. He was speaking to us from Japan. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at HowStreet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.